Hey everybody, thank you for joining me again. I am joined by Mr. Brandon Nguyen. He is going to be featured on our panel at the DFW Growth Summit. He'll be on the blockchain and fintech panel. He's got a tenure in the investment banking world, and he is now one of the investors with Plug and Play Tech Center. Brandon, thank you for being with me today. Give us a little bit of intro on you and what you've been working on.
Sure. James, thanks for having me and thank you for inviting me to the summit. Happy to take part in the panel. And I'm personally just really excited to talk about blockchain, Web3, crypto, digital assets as it exists today, as far as what we see kind of the community and the environment doing, in addition to what it might look like 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now. That's what I'm excited to talk about at the summit. And with respect to where I am today, I am with Plug and Play. I'm the VC associate for North Texas, devoting specifically myself to the financial technology practice. And Plug and Play itself, a little bit of background. So we are the largest, most active investor in the country and certainly in the world. We do about 250 deals every single year. We have about 650 corporate partners that pay us to be part of their innovation arm, or they pay us to be an extension of their innovation business. And that's about a nine-figure business for us. And really, what Plug and Play, what we do in each of the cities that we're in, is we are the connective tissue between founders, investors, government agencies, universities, the entire ecosystem. So everywhere that we are in the world, in all the 65 offices around the world, there's a point for us being there. And our job is to build a community and make it a thriving innovation ecosystem for everybody.
That is awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. I'm glad to have you guys supporting this event, and I'm glad to have you on here. So let's get right to it. So DFW is becoming a hub for blockchain and fintech. What unique factors are driving this growth in the region?
I think so. For me, when I hear questions like this and when I answer them, I try to look at it kind of an overarching way. I think there's two main reasons that make Texas specifically, and within Texas, North Texas, the best place for blockchain. The first one is more abstract, right? Which is it's aesthetically, if you look at Texas, specifically North Texas, right now I'm in the beautiful city of McKinney, in case you couldn't tell. That's kind of our North Texas base. We're in the beautiful cities of Frisco and McKinney. McKinney, especially if you look at it, it's kind of this old school charm that mixes in kind of the new school revolution, right? And if you look at financial services, it's pretty much the one industry where there hasn't been a lot of innovation in it. So in the same way that you see financial technology in the last, what, decade or two, or even the last 50 years, it hasn't been that innovative yet. So there's certainly that legacy old school charm. And you see that with Texas specifically. And there's tons of new development going on around Texas. You see gentrification, you see new buildings and new businesses popping up all over the place. And that's precisely what blockchain, Web3, and crypto is doing for financial services. So you take Texas, old school charm, then you have this new school gentrification. You have financial services, old school, legacy, then you have blockchain that's really gentrifying and really innovating in a space that we haven't really seen so before. We are, this is, and I tell people this all the time, this is the industrial revolution of finance. And getting in early is very important. And that's why we positioned ourselves within financial technology within our practice to really tackle those new startups that are helping solve these solutions.
I like it. Yeah. I lived in McKinney for I think 11 or 12 years, and Allen before that for about 9 or 10. So I definitely can appreciate that sentiment.
Yeah.
There is a lot of legacy, a lot of old school, especially in McKinney. And I would say, I don't know exactly which year it was, but in the last five, I'd say maybe six, it really has come up quite a bit and very rapidly, I would say,
Okay.
too. Especially along technology and attracting new business, so on and so forth. The airport is getting expanded now, I think. So
Mhm.
at the time of this recording, so that's really exciting. Really, really
Yeah.
exciting times for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
I'd like to, before we move on to the next question, I mean, that's one aspect. There's the aesthetic kind of philosophical abstract view of Texas and blockchain, why that's a perfect match. Then
yeah,
there's infrastructure, right? Which is super important because if you look at the infrastructure of blockchain, it requires a lot of computing power, a lot of empty space, and a lot of heating and cooling just to get everything set up.
yep.
If you were to do the same setup in California, in New York, in Miami, which is where a lot of people are currently based right now for this sector, Miami, it's exorbitantly expensive. And the only real place where you can scale such technology at a rate that's kind of fiscally sensible is in a place like Texas. And Texas is the fourth largest economy, I think, in the world now. And it's, I think, the second or third fastest growing in the entire world as well. Couple that with the fact that McKinney is the second safest city in all of the country, if not the world, and Frisco being number one, there is absolutely no reason why, if you're an existing business, you shouldn't look at Texas. And if you're a startup, you should certainly be looking at Texas.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can agree for sure. DFW is growing rapidly. So blockchain is often called a disruptor. Are
Certainly.
businesses in DFW prepared to embrace the disruption, or are they at risk of being left behind?
Mm. Well, I think I think there's a general adage that we all hear all the time. If you don't embrace technology, you're going to die. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but if you don't embrace any sort of new technology, you're going to die. Certainly hear this adage in AI. If you don't use AI, you're going to be left behind. You're going to be eating everybody's dust. But certainly the same could certainly be said with blockchain, crypto, and Web3 if you're not an adopter of it. Now, the question itself is very interesting because if you look at it as if it were a bubble, similar to what people thought about the internet in '01, if you think about blockchain the same way, then nobody would be on the internet, right? So if you fast forward 2, 3, 4 years from now, if nobody's on blockchain, this is all a bubble, and then no one would really care. I don't think it's a bubble, personally. I mean, we're 16 years into the creation of Bitcoin. We've already established the fact this is not a tulip like in Amsterdam. The tulip mania only had one cycle. Bitcoin's already had 4 cycles. It's here to stay. The president's already talking about it. There's administrations and regulation that is going to go around crypto and Web3. So I think the scary times are far behind us. I think very exciting times are ahead. And I think as far as the people who are willing and open to accept this new technology and can use it to their advantage, yes, they're going to win. And really, there's 3 ways to use crypto, at least as it exists today. There's financial, Bitcoin as we know it. There is contractual, which is more Ethereum based, kind of that smart contract way. And then there's social, which is kind of the main point of this bull run, which is Solana, right? Meme coins, communities. And this is kind of where we see that going. So whatever way you choose to embrace crypto, if you do it, you'll be a winner.
Interesting perspective. We'll definitely unpack that during the panel for sure.
Sure.
So, so does the rise of blockchain and fintech and DFW represent an opportunity to close financial gaps, or does it risk widening them, do you think?
Certainly both. Certainly both. Right. And I mean, I'll jump into a few on both sides of the fence, right? So certainly as far as tightening those gaps, open banking is a big thing because what blockchain, one of the big foundational missions of blockchain is to provide open banking services, to bank the underbanked or to bank the people who have no banking services. So people with Bitcoin, and we've seen this in so many stories all across the world, there are small villages in Africa that are transacting in Bitcoin because that's their only way to trade for goods and services. It's the only barter system they know. And in a world where no financial institutions are there, what is the next best alternative? It's Bitcoin. And we'll get into that kind of how that works a little bit in your other questions, because I know there's a question later on about, sorry, I don't know if I should say this, by the way, but I know there's the question later on about kind of how it's going to be used or whatever. But so there's certainly ways that blockchain opens up the world for opportunity, particularly in financial contracts as well as social. And then there are things that make the world of blockchain and Web3 very scary. And there are 2 anecdotes that I'd like to share with respect to that. Blockchain in its early days was very similar to the iPhone. We heard about blockchain and Bitcoin specifically through illicit activities, right? The Silk Road, it was a way to buy black market goods. It was the only way to pay for these goods and services. The iPhone, when it was first originally released, 90% of the users who bought iPhones were criminals. People loved the iPhone back then because its infrastructure was impenetrable. You could not hack into an iPhone back in the day. And I don't know what Apple's policies are now, but I'm sure it'd be very difficult to hack into an iPhone today, although it happens. Way back then, criminals loved the iPhone because you could not hack into anything.
Hmm.
Bitcoin, initially, criminals loved Bitcoin because it was untraceable. It was complete anonymity. People love that. And what we saw with the iPhone as users grew was that the subset of users that were criminals stayed the same, but the group of users that were legitimate grew. Same thing with blockchain. Silk Road users, very, very small. Silk Road doesn't really exist today, so those users are pretty much gone. But there's still a fair share of activities that are used for illicit purposes. But more than enough people have gone into the network for true purposes. And I think where the gap widens is KYC, anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism financing, all the things that financial institutions are still tackling today. So that's very important.
So I think we'll definitely have some conversation around that during the panel
Yeah.
for sure. Actually, yeah, that'll be those will be some really good points. So, let's shift a little bit here. How do you explain blockchain to the average consumer in a way that builds confidence rather than confusion? It's definitely one of those new technologies that it seems kind of esoteric in a way.
Sure.
Even myself, I'm really not versed in it, but that's what I've got you for, right? So, how would you explain blockchain?
I would I try to do it in two ways. One, I'll try to explain it as I might to a young child or a golden retriever,
That
and
would
I'll
be
try to do it
perfect.
another way.
Yeah.
There you go. And I'll do it another way to explain it to more of an experienced adult of sorts. So the one way I would kind of describe it is to a child, right? We always hear about this example of a child running a lemonade stand, right? Child's in your front yard, he or she runs a lemonade stand, right? Naturally, if a child's there, you would think that a parent is going to be there to make sure that nothing nefarious is going on, everything's okay, right? So you could think of the child as the business, and you could think of the parent as the bank, let's say. So the way blockchain is today and the way it works, particularly in financial services, is according. The child sells lemonade. Someone wants to buy lemonade. They give the child a quarter. The quarter asks for approval from their parent. May I please take this quarter? May I please give them a lemonade? The parent says yes. The transaction happens, right? That is a very, very oversimplified example of how a bank works. You go into a bank, you say, may I put this dollar in your bank account? The bank says yes. The dollar goes into the bank account. Everybody walks away. Beautiful day. Everybody goes on, right? However, let's say that lemonade stand, let's say the parent goes in to take a nap. There's no one left to facilitate that transaction. There's nobody left to approve that child can sell that lemonade. So, in the absence of that, imagine you go into a bank and you try to deposit a dollar and the bank's closed. What do? No business is conducted, right? What blockchain aims to do and what it's doing right now is it decentralizes the approval process for these transactions. So, same example. Child has a lemonade stand. They want to sell lemonade for a quarter. My mom and dad has gone in for a nap. No one's here to approve the transaction. But I don't just have a mom or a dad. I also have an uncle. I have an aunt. I have cousins, people that can give me the permission to make this transaction. Because my parents are asleep, I'm going to go and ask my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, my sisters, my brothers, people who have the authority to make the transaction take place. I'm going to get their approval. And what Bank of America or JP Morgan Chase or what these financial institutions are doing is that they're segregating their decision making to purely in-house. Every transaction needs to go through their retail location, their brick and mortar location. It needs to go through their data center, their computing power, their entire network. The network in this example now is distributed across computers, thousands, hundreds of thousands of computers all across the world. That bank, in theory, if they were to have a decentralized structure in blockchain, would never shut down. Which is why, if you extrapolate that example into capital markets, where we are today, it's 24/7. Imagine a stock that trades 24/7, where there's 24/7 hour market making and liquidity. This is what crypto is. That's why Bitcoin trades 24/7,
That's
where
a
stock markets don't.
that's a really good analogy. So far, I like that. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
probably the best one I've heard yet.
Yeah. So you know what? Now with blockchain, you can buy and sell lemonade 24/7 if that child wanted to, is what I'd say.
I like it. Okay, okay.
Not bad.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I can actually understand that. So hopefully
Thank you.
others will as well.
You
Um,
know.
okay. So all right. Last question, or maybe last question. We'll see.
So
What role do regulations play in shaping the future of blockchain and fintech in DFW? Are they a catalyst, or do you think they're more of a hurdle, or
it's
will?
both. It's both, and it's everything. It's everything all at once, frankly speaking, because you, you let's say you rewind 16 years back in history at the creation of Bitcoin, and you fast forward very quickly to today, right? Bitcoin was the biggest innovation in the last generation. It's you've seen the creation of money right before your eyes if you were there from the beginning in the last 16 years. And what I've seen in the last four cycles of just being in the market is that so many people will come for the money. You see Bitcoin going from sub 1 cent into now $100,000. You want in, you want the money, but very, very few people stay for the movement. And unfortunately, the only way the movement will come is by way of regulation because people come in for the money, right? That's Main Street, right? That's people like you, like me. We want this. We want the technology. We want the price pump. The big money isn't going to come in. Like the banks, the institutions like Fidelity, BlackRock, all these things, all these people that we're hearing about in the news, they're not going to fully jump in and embrace crypto until there's regulation. And if we're here for the movement, we need the regulators to come in, do their job, to regulate crypto the way it should be, to not stifle innovation and to promote it so that the big money comes in and the movement can take place. But you cannot have one without the other.
I like it. I like it. That's a pretty balanced outlook, I think. But yeah, no, I can appreciate that for sure. And I'm very much looking forward to unpacking these more, of course, during the panel. Um, so we got a couple more minutes.
Nope.
Any parting words or advice or
Oh
anything in
man.
particular you're excited about, looking forward to at the summit, anything like that?
Oh man. I think every day is very different for me, so I'm always excited about too many different things. But one of the things I love about my job and the things that I've enjoyed in my career so far is I love the founder journey. I have a deep, deep respect for it. I know it well from my own experiences as well as the tangential experiences I've had with speaking with so many of them. But I guess I don't know. I would hardly call it words of wisdom, but I would say that if you want to win in any game, in any sector that you want to play in, you need to be a builder.
I agree.
And there are specific examples that I can give in any bubble, in any sector over the last 20 years. But with respect to time, I will save that for another podcast, another conversation. But be a builder. It's the only way to win. I would implore
Yeah.
that of everybody listening.
For sure. I wholeheartedly agree.
There
I
you go.
fancy myself a builder as well. So I like that. I like that. That's really good. That's really good.
Love that.
Brandon, thank you for joining me on this brief journey. I appreciate your insights. I know the audience will as well. I'm really looking forward
Oh,
to
good.
having you on the panel. And everyone watching, you still have time to get your tickets. They are moving quickly now. We're 2 weeks out. So make sure to grab your ticket on jamessackey.marketing, and we will see you then.